So I'm riding in Reno, Nevada with Jonathan Lee today, and I had to stop. We were gonna go for a ride, but at first I had to stop, and we had to talk about this bike because he has everything dialed in ridiculously. The color coordination, the jersey, the helmet, head to toe. I'm just gonna have him go through every piece of his gear and talk to you guys, because I mean, we got the Envy wheels, we got the custom decals, so much good stuff. So yeah, I'll let Jonathan take it away.
So this is my Yeti ASRc. It's their XC bike, but with Yeti DNA in it, so it's definitely a little more aggressive than most XC bikes when you're going down, but it still climbs so extremely well. Before the dropper post, so I have a RockShox Reverb B1 on here, the new one, and I had the 170, the extra long drop on there, mainly just because I could. I came out and I looked at that versus the 150 or another one, and I just got more, and it's just fine. So before this, it was at 21 pounds even. With this, and then a few other things that I've added on, I think it brought it to 22, just over 22. So it's a really light bike. It descends, so just for a point of reference, I had a camber before this and also a stump jumper hardtail. It climbs just as good as that hardtail. Part of that is because I have on here, I have the, I think it's called the X-Lock Full Sprint. So this locks out my rear and front, and then I can dial in right here how much I want the front to be unlocked. And I always keep a little bit more squish in the front because I want to like retain front end traction. But this thing climbs just like a hardtail. It descends really well, better than the camber. The camber's a really good bike, but better than the camber. It's more composed, less flex, everything else. The cool part about this, so when I first got it, I knew I was going to be doing XC racing. That's mostly what I do. And
what category are you?
One.
Okay,
one.
Cat 1, not a pro.
No, well, yeah, I do pro races pretty regularly, but I race. I'm a professional marketer.
Yes,
so,
yeah.
For Trainer Road, so not a professional bike racer. So I try to compete against average Joes, but I was worried at first because I thought this bike would have with a 120 mil travel fork. I was worried that I was going to be in a situation where my front end would be too high. And for XC racing, you want to keep a lower front end just because climbing, that puts you in a better position for climbing. But I looked at the stack height on this, and compared to my stump jumper, which had 100 millimeters of travel, the stump jumper hardtail, this still has a 12 mil lower stack height than the stump jumper because the head tube is so short on this thing. So I have 20 millimeters more travel in the front, and I still have a lower stack height than what I had before with that hardtail. Not to mention the fact that, of course, I have 100 millimeters of travel in the rear as well. So, killer bike. I went for the standard offset, which is the less XC. It's more raked out. I think it's like 54 millimeters. I can't remember exactly, but I asked Yeti, and that's what they recommended, and it's really good. Then I went with Envy components all over everything before the dropper post. So this is their road stem. It's extremely stiff and totally capable for mountain biking. I got this just because they didn't make the mountain stem in the exact length that I wanted. So otherwise,
that's dedication right there.
Yes, yeah. You have to have setup. And then there's sweet bar to keep a low front end. 760, I cut it down to 740. Even though I grew up racing motocross, so I'm used to wide handlebars plus 800s. With this bike, I wear, to give you an idea, I'm like a size 39 suit jacket size. So for me, I find that that's perfect. With ESI grips like I have, you can usually tell where your hand hits. And in this case, my hand isn't bleeding off the edge ever. My hand is right there where it needs to be. So it works really well. Then I love SRAM stuff. I like Shimano too, but SRAM stuff I really like. And I wanted my cockpit to be really clean up here. So I just have one clamp and then one clamp. Have my dropper here and then my lockout
okay,
there.
So this is the dropper. Okay,
yes.
I was getting confused that was the dropper / lockout, but this is the lockout.
This is the lockout.
This is the dropper.
This is the dropper. And that lockout, once again, controls front and rear with just one plunger. So I wanted to keep it clean. So I have SRAM guide RSC brakes, 160 mil front, 160 mil rear. I don't go down in the back. And 160 for me, I weigh 145 pounds, and 160 is plenty fine. I get all the braking power that I need out of these brakes. The levels are good brakes too, and I would consider putting them on this bike. For being a lighter weight rider, I could probably get away with it. But I just haven't put them on. They didn't come out by the time I built this bike. Some other things on here, so this wheels, M50s, so these are, once again, I'm only 140 pounds. So since I'm 140 pounds, I don't need to worry
You just
about
lost 5 pounds. Are you saying
45 pounds, beginning. 145 pounds. I don't need to worry too much about having a robust wheel set. I would like it if these were a little wider, but I'm sure that the next iteration of their wheels will be wider before that. Then I run the Ardent Race, which doesn't, for some crazy reason, it's not used by everyone, and I don't get it. The problem with the normal Ardent, so the normal Ardent has less knobs, but they're bigger and it's a more aggressive tire. The Ardent Race has less knobs, and the problem with the Ardent is that you have this huge gap in between the side knobs here and then the center knobs. So basically this row of knobs and this row of knobs, there's a separation on the normal Ardent. So you get this weird drift zone when you're riding and you lean the bike over, it's perfect traction, and then you slide until you catch. That's really good for the back. I like the, in fact, on my set of Enduro wheels that I have, they're heavier, I have an Ardent in the rear, so then I can get that drift when I need. But this one, it closes up that gap. It rolls extremely fast. I find that it rolls just as fast as the Icon. I don't feel like it rolls any slower. I haven't done anything scientific, but a roll down test proved to be the same. And I get way better traction and much better braking than I do with the Icon. I know the Icon's the popular choice, but open your eyes. There's more out there. So, and I run 2.2s, and I run these at 21 PSI in the front, 23 PSI in the rear. Tubeless, of course, with orange seal instead of stands. Stands just leaks all the time. So I modified this grommet right here so that I could run, and you can see I have some ghetto tape here, like a normal pro bike. I modified this, just drilled out not the frame but the grommet here, so that I could run my rear brake line internally, and I wanted to keep that clean. And then on the other side I have my shifter obviously running internally, and then this is my dropper post line that runs externally down here. It comes back up and comes in and it routes internally, so I can run a stealth post through here, so it's pretty clean there. I also run these Jaguar clips. Since this has a lockout, this bike wasn't designed to run that cable internally, but Jaguar has these adhesive clips that you can put on your frame, and they're super cheap, and I use that to guide this cable so that I don't have just loose cables running around. I would hate that on this bike. Some other details: I have a Stages power meter. All of my bikes have power meters, and I know that's kind of that's what I do for work at Trainer Road. We're all about power-based training, so it makes sense that I would have that. But the Stages is really good. Anybody that tries to tell you an SRM or anything else is better, it's not. They're all on the same level with these power meters. They're really good. So I have Xpedo M-Force 8 Tie pedals. So those are, other than the Crank Brothers titanium pedals, and there are a few other like obscure ones, those are pretty much the lightest SPD pedals you can get. I like SPDs because you get more feel, like a solid firm feel out of it, like a flatter platform instead of one that rolls. And you also have a solid point at which you know you are engaged or not engaged, versus the Crank Brothers, you can just kind of slip right out whenever you want. So they're really light. They're full titanium spindles and bodies as well. Let's see, I have obviously the RS1 fork like we talked about there. I have X01 cranks. They're the same as the XX1 cranks. If anybody tells you any differently, it's just the graphics. It's the same stuff. I have an absolute black chainring on here, and it's a 32 tooth, and that roughly acts like a 34 or a 30 depending on where you're at in the pedal stroke. I don't buy into oval rings being effective for, or more physiologically effective. I don't buy that at all. But the one thing that it does, I think that they have more application for mountain biking. Theoretically, it should smooth out the torque delivery to the rear wheel, so you would have more consistent traction. And it should also reduce pedal bob in that same vein of thought. In this case, this bike, I never use this lockout, so rarely, unless I'm on an extended section of road, because the pedal bob is nearly non-existent with the Monarch XX shock. The DPS is what comes with it, the Fox DPS, and it's just as good. They're both really good shocks, just different ways to skin the cat. But I went with the oval ring because I was hoping to get rid of any pedal bob there could be, and there is none. So awesome chainring, and also they wear really well. I found they wear better than the standard SRAM chainrings.
So you were saying that like your chainring would actually start wearing out. You put so many miles on your bike that you beat it up and you see the wear within a one season or so? With
SRAM, I would go through 4 chainrings in a year.
Whoa!
So, so quick.
This guy put some miles in.
Yeah. Then I have X01 derailleur and X01 cassette. I measured the X01 cassette versus my XX1 cassette, and I think there were 6 grams difference, and the X01 was actually lighter. So I think it's all within like manufacturer's tolerances. They're pretty much the same weight. It's just this one's black, so it's better, right?
Yeah.
So a predictive steering front hub, and then a DT Swiss 240 rear. So that's you have to run that hub up front, but then in this case, the 240 is in the rear. It's adequate, once again, for the weight that I have. I switched out the 18 tooth star ratchet in there with the 54, just more points of engagement. And let me think, anything else on here? I think that pretty much covers it. A specialized Phenom saddle as well. It's a really good saddle. I like it a lot. It's got, in the back here, it's got 2 spots where you can mount different things. I think it's called the Bandit. It's like it's like a strap, and it'll hold your levers, tools, multi-tool, and a tube in a really compact form, which is nice. And then I also have the specialized Z cage. Obviously, there's not a lot of room for a bottle in here, just enough for one. So the Z cage is a side load cage, and it makes it easy that way. It holds things, doesn't break, really nice.
Oh yeah, how about your Garmin?
K-Edge. So I have a Garmin Edge 520, and this is the K-Edge mount. You don't need the extra long mount for a 520, it's just fine. And then on the underside, which I don't have this right now, it's on my cross bike, but you can thread in a Garmin mount as well underneath there. And underneath here, you can see these 2 bosses that I have here. So here and here. This bike has a second water bottle cage mount down here, but I don't want to have a cage hanging off. I put in a lot of work to make sure this bike looks flawless, and I don't want to have a cage down there, right? And also so it can catch on things. So in this case, I have a fabric water bottle, and those bottles have slots built into the bottles, so you just put those bosses on and it just pops right on. I wouldn't recommend putting that on your main bottle cage mount because they are really hard to get off and on. So it's kind of impossible to get it off without falling or anything else. So that covers the bike head to toe. I think, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And then POC tactile,
head to toe.
Yeah, tactile helmet, and these are the Crave glasses.
How do you like those glasses?
They're good. I would say that I would like to have nothing below as well.
Yeah.
But nothing up top is really nice.
Nice.
It is nice on there. And they're also designed to fit well with this helmet. They don't go over the straps like a lot of roadies want to put, and I get it, putting it over the straps, but in this case it was designed to go underneath. If you try to put them over, it won't fit well. But the helmet comes down low, which is nice for enduro stuff or just any riding.
Protection,
really. I use an octal when I'm doing XC racing, a little lighter, better ventilation, and then I use their half blades that don't have anything below for XC racing too when I'm using that.
Every gram counts.
Yeah. Or it's just it's nice to not have anything below, especially in XC racing when you tend to be spending a lot of time looking down and contemplating why you're doing this. So. And then Quare makes all of my clothing. So. And
did you design these yourself? I heard you saying. Cool.
Yeah. So and this is Trainer Row. That's the company I work for. Quare. They make really nice.
Like one-off kind of stuff. Or
you can order quantities of one. It's very expensive. You can order larger, and as you go up, it'll get cheaper. They also make just stock Quare branded stuff that's really nice too. But I have really bad skin. It's really sensitive to irritation, and it took me a long time to find stuff that didn't, and sorry if this is gross, but didn't completely destroy me in bad areas. And their stuff fits really well for me.
That's
and I'm sure for another guy it may not be that way, but I
really like Quare shorts as well.
Yeah, they make the baggy shorts as well. And then this is what I wear. So underneath I just have some bib shorts and tan lines, as you can see. And I just wear bib shorts underneath. These don't have a chamois in them. I don't like baggy shorts with the chamois because the chamois shifts. So I just wear bib shorts underneath that. And I usually wear Lycra stuff if I'm racing XC or anything like that. And it's just different colors, but the same vibe. So
fantastic. Oh, let's talk about the shoes real quick.
Oh, yeah, and then I like Specialized, and these are dirty right now, but the ASRc XC shoes that they have. They're really nice. You can put in different insoles, and I run the medium insole. I have a pretty high arch, and these things are super stiff. They're very comfortable, and having the BOA dials on them is awesome. I love the look of laces. I like that idea, but I adjust the dials on my shoes pretty regularly, so I don't think that would really work out. So yeah, love these shoes. They're really good. And these for doing cyclocross racing and a huge amount of riding every year. I'll get I could push these to probably 2 seasons out of a pair of these shoes, but I ride probably 10x what a normal consumer would ride.
Yeah.
So they last really well too, which is nice.
Do you have an idea how many miles in a healthy, you said you're kind of injured this year, so
Yeah.
maybe on a regular healthy year, how many miles do you ride?
I wouldn't be able to break it down in miles, but in terms of
what's
time,
your measurement?
Yeah, in terms of time, because I measure everything with power and TSS,
Yes.
but with time, I'm usually putting in like a 13-hour week is something like a minimum, and then on heavy weeks it can bump up to 18.
Wow, so about 2 hours on the bike every single day.
Yeah, and usually I don't ride every day. I have rest days. I have 2 a week. Sunday's a rest day for me, and then my other rest day is Wednesday usually. So I'm on the bike. Saturdays are usually very long, so I have to get all my chores done so I can get out and spend a lot of time on the bike.
So trainerroad.com, that's your company. Are all the other guys at the company just as crazy as you?
A lot of them, yeah.
That's a pretty good endorsement then, I'd say, for checking out that website and seeing what they're all about.
Yeah, it's all about indoor training. So it seems like it's nothing like it would be something that mountain bikers don't want, but to be honest, it's kind of the perfect thing because
winter's coming.
Well, doing intervals on the trail sucks regardless of season. Just do your intervals inside in 30 minutes or less, and then have fun on the trail. So
love it.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks so much. This was like 16 minutes straight of you talking, and I found it fascinating every single second. I'm sure you guys did too.
Sweet.
Thanks.